दुर्लभ हमारे उत्साह, हमारी स्पिरिट से बढ़कर के दुनिया में कोई फोर्स नहीं होता। उत्साह परम बलम।
Prarambh, Utsaha Param Balam. Taking inspiration from Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision. Let us ignite the next major movement for startups. Let's celebrate the ideas and the excitement. Let's exchange awareness and knowledge. Let's expand the horizons. Let's establish accolades. Let's embrace. Let us initiate. Prarambh, Utsaha, Parambalam. Startup India International Summit.
Is there a video that is to play, or I can start? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone who's attending this session. And I'd certainly want to welcome all our panelists today. It's a great honor to have you all amongst us today to share your perspectives on what is a very interesting topic that I've been asked to moderate: promoting entrepreneurship in educational institutions. As you all know, entrepreneurship education is one of the most influential forces in the growth and development of an economy. And it really does diminish the big issues of both unemployment and poverty through the creation of entrepreneurship and jobs. The paradigm shift of the student focus on job-oriented programs to job-creating programs, such as the management in entrepreneurship, diploma in entrepreneurship, and other such training programs, has really broadened the scope of entrepreneurship education in the country. The Indian economy needs emergence of new, innovative, and enthusiastic entrepreneurs, and education is a very important factor in developing the entrepreneurial competencies of our young people. As we all well know, we are a young country with an average of about 63% of our population currently being in the working age group of somewhere between 15 to 60 years of age. And studies have found that entrepreneurship prevalence rates are highest in the 25 to 35 age group. But this advantage obviously can become a barrier if our youth are not able to develop the appropriate skills, including entrepreneurial skills. And educational institutions, which all of our panelists today represent, have a major role to play in it. In the 60s and 70s, entrepreneurship education was almost exclusively delivered in form of training programs offered by institutions under the aegis of the state and central governments, and by financial institutions that were given support from the government to train people. But post-liberalization, the country has seen the potential of entrepreneurship as an employment generator and also a means of economic growth and wealth creation. Particularly in the 90s, the great success of the Indian firms, particularly in the IT sector, has encouraged several institutions, NGOs, business schools, industrial units, consultancies to strengthen the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the country and to establish a mode of educating in this area, which is not just based on training. So education has become very important for individuals who want to bring their ideas successfully into the market, and educational institutes can really help individuals in nurturing and developing necessary skills and competencies. And these institutions provide a lot of guidance. They allow for people to learn and develop and reduce the uncertainty of the market that comes always in play when you're launching a new business. So without further ado, let me move right to our panels. It is my great pleasure to introduce the panelists. Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, who is the chairman of AICTE, the All India Council for Technical Education. Professor Ashok Mishra, distinguished professor of the National Academy of Sciences. Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala from IIT Madras. Professor Sudhir Jain, the director of IIT Gandhinagar. Kunal Upadhyay, co-founder of Bharat Fund and CII-CO, and Professor Amitabh Bandyopadhyay at IIT Kanpur. A very warm welcome to you all. And through today's panel, we want to further understand the role of educational institutions, work collaboratively and leverage the big, vast ecosystem that will help us solve this whole problem and enable the growth of entrepreneurial education in India. With that, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, Chairman AICTE, will start with his opening remarks and also talk to us about the vast experience of AICTE in promoting entrepreneurship in educational institutions. Professor Sahasrabudhe, over to you.
Thank you, Pramath. All of you are aware that AICTE is a regulatory body, came into existence in 1987 when large number of private colleges started happening in the country, especially from Karnataka, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu. And regulation was necessary, and therefore through an act of parliament, AICTE was made. But the very fact that the quality was not looked into and more emphasis was given on access and equity. So we have huge number of colleges which came up, and there was a challenge of even maintaining the minimum standards that are required. And that's where many problems also arose. In a nutshell, there was a committee constituted under the former IAS officer and Secretary of Education, Cow. And it happens that Ashok Jhunjhunwala is also part of the committee. It was called Cow Committee. And the report of that came in 2015. And many transformational reforms started off from then on. More than access and equity, the emphasis on quality, as well as not just a regulator, but how an institution can become a regulator, as well as a facilitator. That was what was emphasized in this particular report. Having said this, several reforms were started off, starting with the curriculum revision itself at regular intervals, faculty development program, faculty certification program, mandatory internship, students when they join in, what they need to do, how they have to handle. All of that has started improving the quality, still a long way to go, because 40 to 50% of the seats in our all colleges are still remaining vacant. I think we have large capacity, but it's not being filled at all. And in fact, some of the states, number of students who come out of class 12 are less than the number of seats available in engineering. That being the case, a big challenge for us, but nevertheless, something we are moving ahead in the right direction. Now, coming to the most important part of this program, which is about entrepreneurship, I should say that Prime Minister Modi on August 15th, in 2015, declared Startup India, Stand Up India, and the policy of the government itself came into existence on January the 16th, 2016. Similarly, AICT also launched its own startup policy on November 16, 2016 from the Rashtrapati Bhavan during the visitors conference. I think this was very important thing because in none of the state engineering colleges, whether private or government, there was a culture of innovation. There was no culture of entrepreneurship. One or two spikes were there here and there. Some people used to start the startups. But except like IIT Bombay, SINE, or IIC Bangalore, IIM Bangalore, as well as IIM Ahmedabad, these institutions certainly had some elements of entrepreneurial activities, but not in general in most of the institutions. So this policy of 2016 catapulted a sequence of events starting from what is known as Smart India Hackathon, which we started last 4 years. A lot of innovation is happening in the college level. Problems of the government, problems of the industry, both small and medium scale, and emphasis on internship by all the students, whether it is in summer vacation or one full semester. There is a connect which is happening between the requirements of the society and industry and the institutions. I think that is where students get wonderful ideas, and from out of that, startups start emerging and entrepreneurial ventures start happening. And I think I will give you just a few statistics. When we started off in 2016, there were hardly any startups from the institutions. But in 16-17 itself, there were more than 500. In 17-18, around 3,000. In 18-19, around 4,000. And last year, more than 5,500 startups from ordinary colleges. You know, these are 3,200 odd engineering colleges affiliated to different universities. Apart from that, there are many startups happening elsewhere as well. So I think our country, with the last hope that we have, is poverty alleviation through creation of jobs. I think that is most significant. And the policy was not very supportive, and that's why again Ashok Jhunjhunwala came in handy. And in 2019, a revised policy was announced, and this was not for just technical institutions, but for all the institutions in the country, including general universities. And how you have actually IP generation, sharing of IP. These were the problems where we had no solution. So there is a clear-cut guideline which is provided by the ministry, and this has really increased the number of startups emerging. We already have several incubators from both DST as well as Niti Aayog. All of them are helping creation of an ecosystem. I should also mention that in terms of innovation, National Innovation Index, globally, India stood at 81st position just 5 years ago, and today we are at 48th position. That means a lot of possibilities exist, given an opportunity to students in terms of not only courses on entrepreneurship. We already developed a management course, PGDM, as well as MBA course in innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture development. Many students are taking this course. So all of these activities will certainly, which India is already a third largest startup ecosystem of the world, will graduate to the second position very, very shortly. With this, initial remarks, I stop here, and then if there are questions, I will take them up later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sahasrabudhe. It's great to know the momentum that all your interventions have created. If we can move from there to Professor Ashok Mishra. Professor Mishra, if you could talk about some of your experiences and also some of the thoughts you have around research and entrepreneurship and what you have seen with IIT Bombay and other institutions. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Pramod. So, I'd like to lay emphasis on the fact that in any educational institution, to be part of this Startup India movement in the country, should have an ambience and systems which will promote entrepreneurship and startups. It goes without saying. But for that, you need high-end ideas to come out. So you have to have a robust culture of research and development in the institution, which promotes creativity, innovations, inventions, and development of new ideas, which are for the benefit of mankind and, of course, wealth generation and providing employment and so on. This would include both strength in basic and applied research in a number of areas, going from manufacturing to IT to materials and bio and so on. This is important because you just don't want just a startup. You want a startup in an area which is high tech, which is the high end of R&D. So that has to happen. So for that, we should have applied research centers also, in addition to the basic research and applied research that's going on. Let's say specifically in, let's say, manufacturing sectors and so on. There should be tinkering labs, and there are lots of tinkering labs that are coming up around in many campuses. And they should be highly emphasized. We should develop and evaluate new ideas that come out of research and activities and the tinkering labs, which are worthy of commercialization. We should develop and evaluate the intellectual property that comes out, because IP is generation in India is not as much as in, let's say, in the Western countries. So we have to have a system for developing and also protecting intellectual property. Writing of a patent in a manner that it is protected in the world scene is also an art, and that has to be developed. We should have very clear policies for things that emerge. Let's say some ideas emerge and they're patented and so on. How will they be commercialized? So commercialization policies should be there. We should have ideas and business plan competitions, which IIT Bombay has and several institutions now have, and this should be encouraged because this is what allows the students at all levels to come up with new ideas. And some of them may be worthy of startups and technology incubation. We must promote courses in entrepreneurship. Although I believe that an entrepreneur, you cannot teach somebody to be an entrepreneur, but what are the requirements to have a startup going? What should be the way a business plan is written? At least these things could be taught. I also strongly believe that in some cases, if somebody wants to do a startup and wants to do, let's say, work with a faculty member on developing the idea through research, should be allowed to take less courses and spend time in developing these ideas through what we will call as undergraduate research opportunities. And then, of course, encourage the research scholars to also think of entrepreneurship. Recently I was talking to a leading industrialist in the country in the manufacturing sector. What is happening is that manufacturing sectors like the Tata Motors and L&T and many others like that used to be the place which would attract the high-end students from the IIT system. That somehow has changed. It's not happening. However, what is happening is that these smart students would have a startup and can be of very value, of great value to the manufacturing sector. So if they are taught properly in the institutions, so instead of going for a job, they can go to a startup and then contribute to the industry. So therefore, a very robust network with the industries should be developed in several sectors. Alongside, we should provide mentorship. Several IITians and IIM graduates, and of course from many other colleges who are successful entrepreneurs can spend some time, can be requested to spend some time with the young students to tell them how to develop startup companies. Venture capitalists, a lot of people are into venture capital and they have a very good knowledge of and a feel for what startups would work and what not. So they should be invited. Institutions should be a place where these venture capitalists or angel funders and so on should flock together to look for ideas. And to some extent, this is happening. We should have an ambience where entrepreneurship and new startup possibilities are flourishing through, as Pramath mentioned when I introduced me, through through research and development, high-end work that is going on in the institution. I have seen several, in one of the experiences I had, several theses, both at master's and PhD levels, which just went unnoticed in terms of the IP that they contained. So this has to be also looked at very closely. Of course, lastly, you should have standalone incubation centers, like as Anil mentioned, like the Society of Innovation and Entrepreneurship SINE at SID at IISc Bangalore, and all the IITs and several NITs. In fact, I'm very pleasantly surprised that even the new IITs, which are hardly 10 years old, have actually started setting up incubation centers on their campus. But then to have high-end startups with quality products which would stand the scrutiny of the world, we should make sure that the culture of R&D is absolutely robust, and the government should put funds into that ecosystem, which will automatically lead to quality startups. I think I would end with that. If there are any other comments or questions, I can take them later.
Sure, Ashok, we'll come back to this. I think what you've done is fantastic in putting together the whole value chain, if you will, within the educational institution that promotes the starting up of a new venture, right from the starting from research and then taking that all the way. You started to refer to incubation, and that couldn't be a better segue to ask Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala to talk about the IIT Madras experience with incubation, as well as anything else that he would like to add. But over to you, Ashok.
Thank you very much, Pramath. I remember 1992, we had actually incubated a few companies by that time, though it was legally not allowed at that time. I remember a very senior faculty member whom I looked up, and I kind of looked up to him thinking that his advice mattered most, came to me and told me, Ashok, what are you doing? You seem to be doing some mess up. I said, what have I done wrong? Have I done something again wrong? He says, well, this educational institutes like IITs are the place where we worship Saraswati. And you have brought in Lakshmi there. And Saraswati and Lakshmi does not get along well together. And you are going to destroy these institutes. I was taken aback because it came from a person whom I respected a lot. I thought about it quite a bit. And for a change, I kind of decided, no, he's not right. Basically, the objective of knowledge, Saraswati or Vidya, is always to create wealth for the society, not necessarily for an individual. And as long as you're creating wealth for the society and making the society flourish, this is very much a job of an educational institute. So we started. It took almost 11, 12 years before we formally could create incubators. So, and much later, only around 2010, everything could be done nicely and incubators could be set up. So we have this IITM incubation cell, which is a parent incubator. There are multiple incubators. We have 210 startups today. Total valuation of these companies is 7,000 crore rupees. So in fact, they have done extremely well. We ourselves have a stake of 100 crore rupees. This incubation cell is not dependent on finance from outside. We take no government money for very long now, except some very small initial money. We take no government money. There is no government employee associated with it. It's a completely self-standing and it's doing very well. So the question very often is asked to me that what happened? What is a key to success of entrepreneurs, incubators? Because there are large number of incubators around the country in many, many institutes. In fact, I visit many of them. Most of them are struggling. There are few which are doing well. Most of them are struggling. So the question is, what are the steps that we do and what we need to do? From our experience, we do recognize that the first step is to create hype on entrepreneurship. Now, fortunately, that has been done. Even while our Prime Minister has kind of talked about startups, and so enough hype has been created, and we get some of the very successful entrepreneurs who come and talk that how I made 1,000 crore rupees in doing a startup, and that perks up the students. So that's a step number one. But that is only a step number one. The second step is what most people fail to do. The second step is to just do the opposite. What I call de-hype. Go to reality, get to reality. Tell the youngsters that becoming an entrepreneur is far, far more difficult than getting into a job. It will require you to work much harder, 16 hours a day. And you are not going to likely to get any money. You have to do multiple functions. In fact, get people to come and work with you. Not easy. You have to handle finance. You have to handle cash flow. Every month you will be struggling with giving the money, make product, develop the market. And after working so hard, you are very likely to fail. And a successful startup actually fails, and then only succeed. After every failure, if you have a courage to stand up again and continue, then only the success takes place. So therefore, after you create this de-hype, you have to do a selection into the incubation and do two things. I will say: do not make it easy, and do not give any easy money. Because if you give easy money, you have almost certainly written the epitaph of the company. Let them earn the money. Give them small support, small loans, small grant, but very small, but let them earn. Every rupee, let them earn. Let them put their own time, effort as risk. Then the most important thing, actually, Professor Mishra also, Ashok Mishra also said, mentor and monitor them closely. This is where we miss out very often. Focus on revenue generation and margin creation from the beginning, not later on. Let them contribute to equity with labor and absolutely minimum living salary to begin with. Only when they do work like this, they are able to get others to work like this, they succeed. After that, enable small loans. Maybe with a lower interest rate. And then, as the companies start doing well and start generating some revenue, follow up with help them get a bank loans and help them get an angel financing. If you follow this process, and the process starts not with hyping, hype creation is very important, but that is only to attract people. But after that, to get to reality check, tough, teaching them how tough it is, tough selection, earn at every step. Finally, they have to stand on their own feet. They have to earn at every step. You do this, chances of success become very, very high. And I think this is all that we have been doing. This is all that we are trying to teach. And of course, the only other difference about our incubator is it's a deep tech incubator. We do less of purely commercial kind of companies. We actually more focus on the technology companies, and there the R&D that is done at IIT and other things, all the things that Ashok Mishra talked about, becomes very useful. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think between the two Ashoks, we've had two master classes. One on what to do from research to the idea stage, and then from the idea to the successful business stage. And I think, Professor Jhunjhunwala, you can now become a VC very easily. You talk even more insightfully than most venture capitalists and investors that I know. And
so I guess I'm an angel financer. I do put in few lakhs rupees in companies occasionally.
No, you've got it from actually doing it. So that's very helpful and very valuable. I know Professor Sudhir Jain, we spoke about some of the younger IITs. I don't know if you still qualify as a fresh off the boat IIT, but you are certainly younger. And I know that you're doing some things as well. And you have some views on this whole issue of entrepreneurship education. So this is a good time to bring you in, Professor Sudhir Jain, Director of IIT Gandhinagar. अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सुधीर.
Thank you, Pramath. There was a remark that Ashok Mishra made, and if I heard him correctly, I agree with him entirely. He said something to the fact that you cannot teach somebody to be an entrepreneur, and I think I agree with him entirely. I think entrepreneurship is something that requires certain skill sets, certain mindset that you cannot suddenly teach in the college. You have to inculcate that right from childhood, right from school system. All the way to the college, and the kind of skill set that you need, problem solving, the decision making, the risk taking, the managing resources, managing people, marketing, communication, managing business, all of that, right? And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, can you teach that suddenly overnight, or is it a better idea for the young people to learn these things from childhood? And I dare to say that we need to think that these things should be taught from very, very early stage of childhood. And for that, we need to ask our own selves. We should ask our schools, we should ask ourselves as colleges, universities, IITs, are we ourselves doing that? Are we solving the problems? How many college principals, directors, school principals would say that, all right, I have dirty toilets and I will see that I don't have dirty toilets in future, right? That's a problem solved. The director or the principal saying, I have students who have financial problem, I will solve this problem so that every child, every student can study. So similarly, the decision making, how many of our school principals, college directors, college principals are in a position to take decisions or depend on a circular that will come from the state government or the center or something like that. We need to think about all of that, and we need to build our entire food chain of schools and colleges to have that mindset to solve problems, to take decisions, take risks, take responsibilities of wrong decisions. We need to engage our students in letting them manage their own affairs, letting them decide who is the mess contractor in the hostel and how do you make sure that the food in the mess is good. How do they manage their room allotments? How do they manage their entire affairs? That is how you need to train. My favorite exercise when the first year students come to IIT Gandhinagar is when I address all of them together a few weeks after they join, I ask them to raise hands. How many of them have bought a shirt without the parents' presence? And it's a very interesting exercise that I would encourage anybody to do with the 17, 18, 19-year-olds that come to college. How many of them have bought a shirt without the parents' supervision? And I think this is where the problem is. We don't let our kids take decisions and make mistakes. I mean, maybe they will buy a wrong shirt, maybe they'll spend too much, but so what? They need to learn to take decisions. And I think this is where we need to rethink about the entire entrepreneurship agenda of the country. We need to think how we must be managing our schools, colleges, and universities. Should we not allow them to make mistakes, the schools, colleges, and university administrations? Or should we just micromanage them from a distance and tell them, this is how you will do it. This is how the classes will be run. This is the curriculum that you will teach. These many, the lab hours will be there. How do we, as teachers, treat our students? For example, my favorite is that I tell my faculty to not tell students to come to the class. If a student is missing classes, so be it. Let them take responsibility. Let them be adults. Let them flunk the class. And if they flunk too many classes and they are thrown out, so be it. They will learn. They will become better. I would like us to think if we can start to treat our students as adults, where they will take decisions and they will take responsibility and they will be accountable. I think this is what we need to do as an ecosystem in the country, in our schools, colleges, and universities. On top of that, we need to, of course, run courses on entrepreneurship. And that's what we do at IIT Gandhinagar for last, very early. We started formal entrepreneurship teaching course maybe 3 years down, the establishment of the institute. So we must do that. We must do everything that the Ashok Square, Ashok Mishra and Ashok Jhunjhunwala said. We must do all of that. And I must conclude by saying that all the skill sets that I describe here for entrepreneurship, they're actually good for any profession, for any work that one would do. So these are not something that you need to do only because you want to produce Lakshmi. Those are good for university professors. Those are good for bureaucrats. Those are good for if you want to become a police officer. How do you solve the problem? Those are good for politicians. Those are good for any profession, any business, any occupation that somebody would take. So this is what is my take. Let's think about the entire ecosystem of our educational experience. And of course, there is a small role for the parents too, to let the children be on their own and not micromanage them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sudhir. That's a good sort of telescoping back out and looking at the full picture of what's happening in the country. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think if we look at the skills that you described, I mean, we teach these skills on our Harappa education platform because exactly we believe that these are the best skills that are applicable to everyone who wants to make a difference, who wants to be successful in life. I think judgment, decision making, solving problems. What is interesting is what you're also saying is maybe some of our faculty should go through such programs. Some of our administrators and our school principals and institute directors should go through such programs. And maybe we'll come back to Professor Sahasrabudhe and ask him what he thinks about that. And maybe Professor Sahasrabudhe, I'll come back to you later to talk about how do we think about the whole ecosystem, and is there thinking around the schools part? Because I know that in this panel, while we've said education, we are only really talking about higher education. And I know that Amitabh will refer to that a little bit, but maybe we can come back to you in the end about how should we be thinking and what is the thinking in the current policy environment about the whole thing and the schools part. And I know there is thinking around that and you may know better, but I'll quickly ask Kunal to come in. Kunal Upadhyay is representative, I guess, of the younger generation amongst us because he is one of the products of our IIT IIM system. But very early on, he probably set up, Kunal, what must have been the very first accelerator or incubator in the country. And I know that you are now heading a venture fund or a seed fund called Bharat Fund. So you're looking at it from a very different lens and for a long time now. So would love to get your views on what you see as the intersection of education and entrepreneurship. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha. And of course, I've been associated with IIM Ahmedabad and been doing pretty much what I've done at IIM Ahmedabad over the last 14 odd years. The role of business school is pretty important. It's not very obvious very often because many of the startups being created are built around technology. But what's very important to note is most of the failures in the startups that happen, and Professor Jhunjhunwala talked about startups failing again and again. What is very important is that most of these failures don't happen because of a technology failure. They don't happen because of a design failure. Very often it is a management failure. And this management failure transpires in different forms. Mostly it's a product market fit issue, wherein you've created a product which is not necessarily meeting a market need, but it will transpire in different ways. Either the customer would not be willing to pay, or you failed to raise money, or many others. So it's really the role of a business school, or should I say the management school, becomes very, very important in strengthening the startup ecosystem in India. In my mind, I'll broadly call them 3 ideas that any business school, whether it is top tier business schools or local business schools, can pursue. I call them the 3 T's. The first one is an obvious one, T for training. As I said, most of the management failures result in the startups failing. B schools have an important role to play in training India's future and current entrepreneurs, whether it is the students or existing entrepreneurs who've already started out. You can support them, whether these are startups, whether these are SMEs. They can be equipped with the right kind of skills that Professor Jain talked about. Late in the life cycle, nothing beats if we can do that early, but it's still not too late for many of the entrepreneurs to be equipped with these skills. I mean, of course, as IIM Ahmedabad's Entrepreneurship Center, we pioneered the concept of accelerator, wherein we actually broke down a 2-year business school session into practically 10 to 20 small sessions of half day each, which we call the accelerator programs. And today, on an annual basis, we train close to around 500 entrepreneurs through various case studies and programs that we've created to train these guys. And within a short span of time, they're able to, even for students or people who've been through a full-fledged business school, they are able to learn or jog their memories on interesting skills, which are very, very critical for any entrepreneur to have. What I should highlight is one very critical skill. Professor Jain talked about problem solving. In my mind, the second most important thing that needs to be inculcated in Indian entrepreneurs, and all educational institutions have a big role to play, is developing customer centricity. Unfortunately, many of the entrepreneurs or students who are trying to create solutions fail to put the customer at the center of their focus. They fail to create for the customer, and very often as a result of it, product market fit or other issues pop up. So in my mind, training becomes a very, very critical element, and within training, customer centricity being a very important one. The second T to me is translation. Business schools have an equally important role to translate. And of course, given the fact that I've got representatives from the technical world here, I'm not just referring to translation of technologies into commercial product, but also translation of the voice of the customer into forms which can be easily understood by the aspiring entrepreneurs and students. What are their problems? Can we create very simple sectoral landscape which can be analyzed by an entrepreneur and they can pick up with the right problems that they can solve? It could be translation of journeys of successful and unsuccessful entrepreneurs in the form of case studies, which can actually be used for inspiring future entrepreneurs. It could take the form of books getting published. Long back, we did an experiment called Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, which over the last decade or so has sold close to around 1 million copies. Very simple initiatives can actually bring about significant change in the ecosystem. So that's the translate T. The third and the last one in my mind for business schools to actually do is to transcend, which is T for transcend, beyond their regular role of being a trainer or a research ground. They need to actually transcend beyond their usual remit and help build ecosystems for entrepreneurs. And these ecosystems will mean different things in different contexts. For a local business school in a tier 2 town, it could mean you creating a local ecosystem of mentors, alumni, rich HNIs in the region, small SMEs who can all come together to actually help the local entrepreneurs, which are either getting created in the business school or local educational institutions or even outside it. You could run an open innovation scouting program like we used to run a national one called Power of Ideas in partnership with Economic Times and DST, which can actually source the best ideas from the region. You can then help crystallize these ideas into meaningful enterprises. So that's something that a local small business school can do. A larger business school, like whether it's ISB, whether it is IIMs, they can play an even bigger catalytic role. They can actually help create entire ecosystems for emerging sectors. A good example has been some of the work that we've been doing to leverage our convening power, bring together stakeholders, whether it is international corporates like Philips and BP, foundations like Gates Foundation, Dell Foundation, Omidyar Network, or domestic financial institutions like banks and insurers. We've actually been able to leverage the convening power and create different pools of money like the Bharat Fund, the Infuse Ventures, and not just provide mentoring, but capital, access to networks, access to market. So these three, interventions by any business school, training, translating, and transcending beyond their usual job, can really help change the narrative and support aspiring entrepreneurs coming from across different educational institutions.
Thanks, Kunal. I think if you add that to the A square and the T cube, I think you have the full system in place. And I think we are building a nice framework here. Amitabh, I know that you are doing a lot of interesting stuff at IIT Kanpur as well. And so I'm going to let you have kind of the last word on how all of this comes together, if you will.
Yeah, IIT Kanpur seems to have been doing a lot of good work for quite some time, because in this panel I see 5 people connected with IIT Kanpur in one way or the other. So, I would run with a central theme and might be a little bit at variance with what Professor Jhunjhunwala said. My take is that nothing succeeds like success. When we are talking about increasing the number of entrepreneurs coming out of the academic institutions, just by creating all sorts of entrepreneurial opportunities is not going to be good enough. You just think back how our academic systems evolved with time, that there was at one point huge rush for engineering colleges in general. Now we are seeing a steady decline. After the massive success of IT sector in the country, there was this buzz about biotech sector, and biotech colleges were opened up in every nook and corner, and today we know what has happened to those. Therefore, until and unless success is showcased, it is going to be difficult to induce students to take up such a career, because as Professor Jhunjhunwala said, that it is not the easiest of career options. Therefore, I think it should start from the school. You think about our school textbooks. We have so many role models talked about there. Do we ever talk about successful entrepreneurs as role models? I doubt it, at least not when I was in school. So that has to change. And I'll tell you with one small example that I have this time, that for last 7 years, when I was associated with the incubator of IIT Kanpur, not a single undergraduate student straight out of graduation wanted to come to the incubator. This time what I did is that, as many of you know, the spectacular journey that one of our companies had, the Noka Robotics, they made this ventilator and became quite celebrated nationally. I had them give a talk during one of these sessions. And this time I got 20 applications from graduating students to get incubated at the incubator of IIT Kanpur. And we were in a difficult situation. We chose 7 of them. So that is the first thing that I would like to say, that we need to create role models, showcase them. Otherwise, that's the first thing. Second thing is that while, again, as Professor Jhunjhunwala said, that while we are hyping and creating this ecosystem, we are trying to get many people in the ecosystem. Just keep this biotech analogy in mind, that imagine today a lot of people want to become entrepreneurs, and there is a lot of failure 5 years down the line. That will kill the ecosystem forever. Therefore, we need to do everything in our power to ensure that there is a fair degree of success. And for that, I would like to highlight a few issues. The other day in the social media, I wrote that Pune is coming up as a nice tech hub. One person commented that by tech, I generally understand IT, and there is no such thing in Pune. Now, that's a huge problem in this country, that by tech, people really mean IT. And, me being an experimentalist, the way I look at the society, I think manufacturing sector has a huge role to play. And, if the lessons from my own incubator is any indication, then while there is grants and loans available for the early stage for manufacturing sector companies, but when it comes to really scale up, the VC funding is very few and far in between. And that's where we need solid facilitation. Number 2, Indian products, typically, they tend to be not global standard products. We do not have a very good certification process. We do not have standards process. We need to have very strict certification and standards process. At the same time, the process must be fair and efficient. Nobody will pay the entrepreneur for the 1 year, 2 year, the entrepreneur will be waiting to get its product certified. It should be done in a manner so that it is done in 1 to 2 months. And we have seen how critical role it played when we rolled out the N95 mask from our campus or the ventilators. So, and then finally, though Government of India has done taken a lot of positive steps in ensuring that startups also get to play a role in government procurement, I can tell you from experience that there is still a whole lot more distance to go. There are way too many obstacles on the way of young entrepreneurs trying to sell directly to the government. And unfortunately, many of the products, particularly in the manufacturing sector, government is the final buyer. So therefore, more needs to be done there. So if we do all of this, if the students 3 years, 4 years down the line get to see that from his or her college, every year, 2, 3 very successful businesses are being created, that's what will catalyze the whole ecosystem, and it will energize the ecosystem. So that's what would be my small take on the whole thing.
No, thank you, Amitabh. I think all of this kind of resonates very nicely with what people have said. And as I was saying, we are down to about the last 6-7 minutes. So Professor Sahasrabudhe, would you like to go back to the question I was trying to get to, which is, what do you see happening with regard to the school system and how that education is feeding into this that we are doing at the higher education level?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interestingly, Atal Tinkering Labs are there now in about 5,000 plus schools. It's not just in colleges and universities, but also at the school level. I think they are going to be the feeder ground for innovation as we move along. And when they come into higher education, there will be a different lot. Secondly, the new national education policy, which has changed the way schooling has to happen from 10+2 system to 5+3+3+4, with the first 5 years being both in the mother tongue so that they get adjusted very quickly. And secondly, all of that on basis of toys, games, hands-on work, experiential learning, and then with the 6th standard onwards up to the 12th standard, minimum 2 to 3 skills, different types of skills they must acquire. I think this is going to be absolutely transformational when these kids will come to the higher education. I think the seed is sown, but we'll have to enjoy that benefit after about another 5, 6 years or 10 years down the line. But I think even before that, there are certain concrete examples which have sprung up on their own. I'll just give you an example. Here in Delhi itself, there are twin brothers, Yashraj and Yuvraj. I don't know how many of you know. While in school at the age of 13, they started doing research, patenting, and they are now nearing 20. They have 2 companies, Ideax Solutions and Pentonic Infotech, and they have employed 300 people. None of them graduates, and they do high-end research and create products. They have several patents in there. I think there is a lot of strength. Our main problem has been attitude and then the way we conduct our examination. Examinations have been mostly rote learning right from KG to PG. And if you change that and then bring in critical thinking, analytical thinking, also a lot of data analytics which students have to do in the examination right from school to the high school to the college and universities, I'm sure this will catapult a lot of innovation movement. And our experience with our Smart India Hackathon is wonderful. In the 4 years, they have given solutions, problem solving, which Sudhir was telling. Some of the students have created solutions which have been adopted by ISRO, DRDO, even Ministry of Ayush, Railways. I think there is a lot of talent. How do we really encourage them to do it? And therefore, through this startup policy, it is not only courses being made available, but if some student wants to take a break, about 1 year sabbatical, student sabbatical, like faculty sabbatical, and then promote them, have a minor in something, and different types of examination for such guys, I'm sure we will be in a position to create a complete end-to-end ecosystem which will really catapult our nation into a startup ecosystem.
As I hear all of you, I'm left with a feeling that we seem to have created a bunch of overlays on the existing system, whether it is courses or training or incubator or, to bring in entrepreneurship. But I'm also sensing from all of you that it needs to go beyond that whatever we are overlaying on, that in itself needs to change. And it needs to change right from the beginning. Do you see that happening in the institution, at the institution level, which some of the people here who are at the institutions, is the core curriculum, if I can call it that loosely, are people shaking that up? Professor Sahasrabudhe talked about exams. I mean, is there a different way that we can do exams, or Sudhir, bring in more problem solving into exams rather than rote learning? Is that also something we should all start pushing on, rather than just saying tinkering or incubators or accelerators? Yeah, Ashok, please go ahead. Mr. Jhunjhunwala, Professor Jhunjhunwala. You're on mute.
Yeah. So
we literally have
all I
3-4
can say is
minutes,
that-
so one minute from everybody.
All
Yeah,
I can say is that you can do whatever pre-training and this, that. Finally, what teaches you is failures.
that's a very powerful point. Yes.
You need to fail. And I think we generally have to teach our student to fail and stand up. That's the most important thing. From childhood, we are doing just the opposite.
Yeah.
We are kind of saying, no, you will not fail. That's all.
Interesting. This is the third discussion I'm having today about this topic of failure and how to deal with failure. Sudhir.
The one concern I have is that we always think about the curriculum and we think about the formal curriculum. I think there is a lot of learning outside the curriculum. And that depends on how I conduct myself, how my students watch me as a teacher, how they watch me as an institution, how they conduct themselves. I think we need to create a matrix where not only you're looking at how the curriculum is, but you also look at everything that is not curriculum. And I think that is something that we are missing in our country. We are only looking at educational experience of young people primarily from the prism of curriculum. We need to see things outside the curriculum. My favorite is that I say to my students, you are not mercenaries. I'm not going to give you credit for every little thing that you will do. So we, in fact, make them do lots of things, and we insist that we will not give you credit for that in the grade card, because that is not what we are all about.
Professor Mishra?
Yeah, so one of the points that I didn't bring out earlier is that of excellence. In any educational institution, teaching and research has to have the highest level that you can attain. And alongside, if you're talking of entrepreneurship, if you have business plan competitions or business plan teaching in entrepreneurship related courses, finance, IP law, this should be of the highest level. Only when the students and the faculty members, I also would like to bring that in because they are a big partner to the startup culture in education institution. Unless they think of excellence at all levels, things will be not of the highest level. There will be startups, but they'll be mediocre startups.
Well, we are 2 minutes from the end. I think this has been a model panel, such high quality content, and I'm very grateful to all of you for having spared your Saturday afternoon to join this panel. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm not saying this just because it's the polite thing to say as a moderator at the end. I'm an entrepreneur myself, but I haven't spent so much concentrated time hearing about entrepreneurship in education, and I have to say that this was really a masterclass. Everything that each of you said has taught me a lot. I'm sure it has been recorded somewhere for somebody who missed it. But thank you very much all for joining us. And thank you very much, everybody in the audience, for joining this session. We hope to gather again soon, but good luck with your startups, and good luck with entrepreneurship, and good luck with your education. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Siddharth.
Thank you, Pramath, for coordinating it so well.